definitions on the lay today. Multi-layered energies. Multi-layered... Yes, it's a relatively short walk around Glastonbury, where the St Michael line and St Mary line can join and meet. It's just 4.29 miles and it should take 2 hours 12. And this is around about halfway through my journey. Walking the Somerset energy lines from one end of the county to the other, following the St Michael and St Mary line, it's about equidistant between the two, the start and the end. That's what equidistant means, isn't it? I've caught that. Now, looking at my research, Glastonbury and the various artefacts around it have all been done before. So rather than just go over old or new ground, I thought what I'm going to do today is go in between. So I'll just be looking for where the lines go in Glastonbury that probably hasn't been looked at before, nobody's interested in. So I haven't really made a plan, and the first stop will be the Tor, and I'm not necessarily going to go to the top of the Tor. Yes, where the two lines go round and round on the Tor, I'm going to go and sit in between the two lines, and I think it's about a third of the way down. So we're approaching the Tor on the dark side, at the back side. Sounds rude. Camping in the wrong place for the festival there. It's the festival in a couple of weeks. The back way up to the Tor, I'll probably walk right across. And I'll maybe have a bit of resonant grounding actually. See what happens there. Starting to get beautiful view now. So the place of interest for me is probably about 20 or 30 feet from that bench. So the Tor's all linked to Avalon, the fairy realms and underworld journeys, apparently. There's lots of stuff to read about this place. And the pilgrims experience visions, dizziness and an expanded state. I'll have a lie down for 10 minutes, do me resonant grounding and tell you how I feel. If I was to look at this scientifically, there is suggestion that being in an elevated location can reduce the visual noise, amplifying internal awareness. There is this Schumann resonance, 7.83 hertz, the Earth's resonance, and possibly connected to the energy lines, but this is associated with meditation and the flow states. So there you go. The other one I'm interested in is the torsion field theory. It's a bit of a fringe theory, but some people propose that these ancient sites distort space-time, slightly triggering altered perceptions. So if there is a collection of energy, and we're made of energy in electromagnetic waves, then I suppose it could just send your brain a bit funny, couldn't it? That could be the effect that we're experiencing. So you can see why there is scepticism, as the science maybe proposes some of the reasons why we are feeling the energy lines in certain places. Oh, I've just sat in some cuckoo spit on the back of my shorts. But I'll have a quick douse here, just to, you know, just to verify. Okay, well that would be the St Michael line. And See, can't find the St Mary line. Where are you? That would probably be the St Mary line. So yeah, about 20 foot apart. But it's too obvious here, so let's get into Glastonbury and find some rather unusual places to do a bit of dowsing. Feature that's not on my map. This is a circle that has been recently planted at the foot of the tor. No idea what the trees are. We've got little buds on it. Something there. Probably best not sniffing it. Oh, it's a National Trust. Blossom Circle. Right, well, might just get the dowsing rods out and see what it's got going for it. Oh, crumbs. It's going nuts. Yeah. That's not the wind. I'm not entirely sure what it is. Feels like something's running that way. Over there. Definitely, it's got a smell of something around here. I'm not sure if it's totally legal, but I did pick up some energy line, I think, with my dowsing rods. Not necessarily the St Michael or St Mary line, but this is what you find in Glastonbury. There's certain places that people come and create their own energy, and again, I think that's part and parcel of why energy lines appear in certain places. People seem to create areas of energy, a congregation of people, and actually that's what some of the literature says on ley lines and energy lines, isn't it? Well, it's quite an interesting area, I have to say. It almost feels like there is concentric rings around this centre point. As a bit of a thought experiment, they've planted these trees in an obvious circle, and in 1,000 years' time, with just the tree stumps and so on, it would have left some kind of mark on the landscape. Perhaps that would also make it a sacred site with us people coming over 1,000 years. So again, an example of how you could maybe even create an area of energy. So that's the Chalice Well, where the red spring is, and you have to pay to get in. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to the white spring, which is free. The commoner's spring. Try the real stuff, I think.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I just fill that up?
No, go for it.
What do you think of this water?
What do I think of it? Cleaner than tap.
It is, and it's got a different taste to it as well.
Yeah.
Not as good as St Oldham's Well.
St Oldham's, where's that?
Dalton.
Dalton, someone told me about that. That's meant to be the best one.
Yeah.
But apparently, the locals didn't want people coming there all the time from out of town. So what they did is they put a goat's carcass or something in it to contaminate it.
Nice. Really? Well, when I went there, I went on the other side of the wall and put my feet in it, not realising people were drinking from the other side.
Right.
Hopefully they didn't get contaminated with my athlete's foot. Brilliant. All right, enjoy. Very nice. Still nice water. So the White Spring has a St. Michael line running through the well, which explains why it has a degree of significance and being seen as a bit of a holy water, whereas the Red Spring, behind the paywall, has both a crossing of the lines. St. Mary and St. Michael run on the Red Spring. I'm satisfied with the white. So here in this wonderful location, with the car park next to the Abbey, is where the St. Michael line runs through the middle of it. So let's go and do a bit of dowsing. Hopefully I don't have to pay the car parking £1.30 an hour. So, just there. So you've got the Abbey wall just over there, and then the line runs to the church. I can pick something up in the car park. So I do believe the line, yeah, goes through the co-op. Interesting. See, this is the side that everybody wants to see, isn't it? Around Glastonbury. Let's go and douse in the co-op. Oh, there's a synchronicity right near the Weetabix. Now, that might be a personal bias. Goes through the co-op.
Yeah.
Do you? Whereabouts does it go then?
I'm not sure exactly where through, but I've heard because it goes mostly through like the high street itself. It does go roughly through this area.
I was detecting it near the Weetabix. I do hold the world record for eating Weetabix, so perhaps that's probably influenced it. I don't know.
Just picking up on it, and it's like I want to have some more.
Oh, don't say that. I had 9 this morning.
Well, it should keep you going for the day, at least.
Yeah.
Take care.
Cheers. Yeah, I think I have to conclude. I think the line does go through the co-op. Detected it near the bread, the bacon, and especially the Weetabix. They don't let you in. Well, I don't think I'm going to do any church dowsing today. I think I'm going to go to a vegan cafe. So the line itself goes into the church and then it comes off through these buildings and it runs right the way through the buildings where there is a vegan cafe and a pub. What a glorious way to spend a day. More vegan cafe. my veganism period. Yes, I've turned vegan and I've now had lunch on an energy line. So there you go, I found that most enjoyable, probably changed me for life. Could I have a ribeye steak, please?
Ribeye steak. I've got some nice ribeyes here. I've got a few pre-cut. I've got a glorious one there.
That's the glorious ones for me.
Yeah.
And that's where the veganism has ended. 1 minute, 38 seconds. That is a beer line. Certainly is, sat on the St. Michael line. Chin chin.
I knew once I started talking.
Putting into that church. Can't remember what it's called. St. Benedict's Church. Oh, hello. Do a bit of dowsing near her in a minute. The ley line runs right across the road into the Goddess Hall, which you can rent out. A strong pull in the rod today, right next to the church, and the ley line runs off, or the energy line runs off in that direction. I've got more of an affinity with the St. Michael line, and actually I'm starting to think that the St. Michael line is the positive version of the energy line and the St. Mary line is a negative version. My experiences have always been very positive while I've been chasing the St. Michael line. I think the St. Mary line has been quite a strange one, really. Perhaps the stronger and more positive of the two is the St. Michael line. I'm starting to conclude that. I should conclude something after being halfway through this. Oh, I could put my hand in some bird shit. The first man I've seen having a piss on the St. Michael line. Interesting. Well, the line does run right the way next to Morrison's, so perhaps he was feeling a little anxious. And I'm going to follow the St. Michael line out now to the Holy Thorn. But first we'll pass the Tor Sports and Leisure, where the line again runs over a car park. How exciting! Lovely cricket pitch and pavilion. And the line, I believe, runs right the way through, in fact where that window opens. Yeah. Let's see if we can find anything here of significance. Oh, that makes sense. And the Holy Thorn tree is up there. So what's been quite interesting is I've been following the line from when I left Glastonbury Ales earlier on. And in fact, I found myself weaving through the back streets of Glastonbury and quite clearly finding a strong signal from the St. Michael line. I'm beginning to ask myself what it is now I'm trying to prove. Yes, time for a break. What a view. And what a cracking place to do some more resonant grounding. So it's probably a good place to reflect actually here, because this is probably where all the significance of everything that goes on in Glastonbury comes about. This is most famous because of Joseph of Arimathea, uncle to Jesus, who's basically a tin trader, arrived in Glastonbury after Jesus' death, planted his staff in there, and it started growing into blossoms every Easter and Christmas. But the specific thorn species is supposedly coming from the Middle East, so it lends weight to the argument that he did make it here. They take a cutting from it, from the one in the Glastonbury Abbey, and send it to the royal Christmas dinner every year as well. But this hill was basically a stop for the medieval pilgrims on the way to Glastonbury Abbey, and it was believed to be the final resting place for King Arthur and Queen Guinevere. Not the hill, but in the Abbey. But again, did the monks make that up? Going back to my point about the Holy Thorn and it looking a bit underwhelming, it was basically cut down by vandals in 2010, but they have got clippings that they've been nurturing elsewhere, so they have replanted the original one. I thought it looked different when I saw Hamish Miller in a book next to a big tree. Local dowsers and sensitives claim the hill sits on a strong ley line intersection. Well, it's funny because I've come across a map and I've got another line to investigate, the Magdalen line. I'll have to find out what it is in a bit. But the strong ley line intersection connecting Glastonbury Tor, Stonehenge and Avebury did have a synchronicity between the last walk and this walk, and it was actually in relation to a crop circle. I went to see a crop circle a couple of years ago. I was thinking about it when I saw the first one in 2025, and I thought, oh, I'll have a look where it is. I opened my OS maps, and on there I previously plotted the ley line running from Stonehenge to Glastonbury Abbey. It just so happens that the crop circle, the first one this year, is exactly on the ley line that I drew on OS maps. Bit of a synchronicity, probably a 30-second gap, not a true synchronicity, but close enough for me to think, oh my goodness. The site here is considered an energy mirror, where whatever emotional or spiritual state you get, it's reflected or intensified. Trouble is, I've got a bit of indigestion from my falafels. Ancient lore suggests that this is where King Arthur threw his sword from, and it landed in there somewhere. It's part of the folklore and the legend of King Arthur in this area. The St. Michael line runs right through here as well. Maybe it's close to the water, that's what's attracting it, but certainly on the map, St. Michael line heads off over there. So the legend suggests that it was right there that King Arthur threw Excalibur off into the River Brue. The Lady of the Lake then emerged from the water to receive the sacred and magic sword. Guard it safely for Britain's future.
That I, Arthur, was to carry Excalibur.
Excalibur is symbolic of honesty, justice and fierce, chivalrous courage. So there you go. A shitty bridge with an excellent story. The old tannery, this part of Glastonbury, was better known for making leather and I suppose supplying clerks' shoes. Behind me is a stone circle. We'll have a bit of a douse and see what we can find. Again, the rod seems to curve round. Now I do know that this is obviously built in the last 50 years, something like that I imagine. So I know it's not an ancient one. But what I'm interested in is again the mere fact that something has been created actually having an effect on the energy line or a energy line. So I'm definitely detecting something in the rods. It feels like it's going somewhere off in that direction. And interestingly enough, that might be my next destination, Bride's Mound. You can see the stone circle here. No information about it. I did put it on social media last week before the walk. I'm that shit at social media, I think only about 3 people read it. Oh well, got nothing. I just know it was built in the modern day. End of the walk, and I've walked 4.8 miles, and it's probably took me 3 hours 48. I have stopped for a vegan meal. I was vegan for a whole 1 minute 37 seconds or something. So we've arrived at the final destination. Now on the map, a ley line called the Magdalen Bridget line, which is an energy line flowing through round the Tor, goes through near the Abbey Barn, and it arrives on top of Bride's Mound. So whilst Bride Mound is just over there, this is the site of the Beckery Chapel that I'm sat on here. Now I'm right on the centre of it, so this is clearly where the energy line comes through. Richard Brunning of the South West Heritage Trust led a team doing an archaeological dig. Basically some chapels, they removed 35 skeletons, and they were dated to approximately 700 AD. The skeletons are now dated to the 5th century. This means that they are Roman, British or Celtic people. Predates the Abbey, which was in the 6th century. This is a sacred site, and it's one of the ones that is unknown, but certainly in terms of, you know, tourism and everybody coming to the Glastonbury for the well-known artefacts in and around, this area is completely in the middle of nowhere. It's probably the nicest I've felt all day. You can't really get a sense of any resonant grounding around Glastonbury because it's just so busy and full of tourists. So unless you're going to go at a time when there's nobody there, then it is really hard to sort of get a feel for the energy lines, if I'm honest. This feels really good, and it's a different energy line as well. So certainly we'll be doing some dowsing, and I will be doing some resonant grounding.